Hello everyone, TLSG here. Today we have a brand new season of Marvel Snap, and with that comes a brand new card. This month brings Ghost Spider. Ghost Spider is a 2-cost, 3-power card with the on-reveal ability. The last card you played moves here. And so there's some unique ways to do this. I think most people are going to throw this in a movement shell, but for me, movement is still incredibly vulnerable. Similar to like a glass cannon where you have like your Arnim Zola that you want to use into a Wong and Black Panther. Sometimes that does incredibly well and it just pops off, but it can be countered pretty easily. And so with movement, I think things like Professor X or control heavy builds, and I also think things like clutter and junk decks like debris, goblins are going to really decimate how efficient and potent that deck can be, even if they get some incredible resources along the way. And so that is what we're running today with Ghost Spider. We are running a debris junk deck. And so the aim of this deck is to clog the opponent's board space enough where you can swing those games back in your favor with some lower power output comparative to other decks. And so you might be asking, why Ghost Spider? What would Ghost Spider do for this deck? Well, there's a couple of actually really cool applications for Ghost Spider. It's not one that you're going to get use out of every single game, but you can use Ghost Spider after like a Titania into pulling it over into a different lane and then bouncing it to their side to clog that side as kind of a surprise burst. So the opponent, even if they're playing heads up, can't necessarily play around that clutter factor. We also can use it after a Green Goblin, which is something that I don't think a lot of people really thought about with Ghost Spider. And so even though the Green Goblin is on the opponent's side of the board, you can use Ghost Spider and then maneuver it to a different location. And so if you're uncertain if the opponent is going to cap out that 3-card lane on that following turn, you can do Green Goblin into a rather open location and then yank it over with Ghost Spider on that next turn to safely and comfortably make sure that at least the Green Goblin goes to their side of the board, and at best it's going to pull over and cap out that opponent's lane when they thought they were safe after seeing the Green Goblin come down somewhere else. We can also use this after something like a Doc Ock. We can drain the opponent's resources in one location and then maneuver our Doc Ock into a different lane if the resources that came down were resources that we just can't really compete against. Whether it be big cards into an armored lane or just things that we can't necessarily face up against it, we can pull our Doc Ock into a different lane, similar to how you used to be able to experiment with like an Iron Fist at the end of turn 4 into a Doc Ock on 5. But now you have that choice of whether you want to maneuver and move it or not. You can also use it with some smaller niche plays. You can move your demon if you dropped it on turn 5. You can reposition it once you see kind of what the opponent's play was, if you need to adjust where your power sits, find the best way to win. And overall, I think this is an okay shell for it. I don't think this is ultimately just a Ghost Spider heavy build, but I think Ghost Spider heavy builds are going to be very counterable, at least at the start of the season. And so I wanted to try something a little bit more unique, a little bit quirkier, because I don't typically want to go with what's normal. I want to think of kind of some cool applications and some cool utility for those new cards that aren't always readily apparent. And so we're going to go ahead and jump over into a couple games. And as always, thank you guys for being here. If you're not subscribed, make sure that you hit the subscribe button if you enjoy this content. And with that being said, let's go ahead and jump over into a couple of games. All right, first up we have High IQ. And I haven't been able to get a game that utilizes Ghost Spider just yet. I think junk or debris clog style decks are going to be good into like a move meta. But surprisingly, I haven't seen a single movement deck. Not even one so far. I've seen a Silver Surfer, I've seen Bounce a couple of times, not a movement deck yet. But I also haven't seen any High Evolutionary, surprisingly, because that's like 95% of what I was seeing before was High Evolutionary. And so we do send them a couple of cards into the Pet Mansion. And so now this is the tech that I wanted to test out. And so this is relatively full, right? So doing a Green Goblin here is a little bit scary. It's not something that is likely to go off. And so if we do something like Demon, and then we do our Green Goblin into a more likely to land lane, I think we can do Ghost Spider next turn and yank the Green Goblin over into the Pet Mansion. And then we don't have to take the risk of it potentially not landing correctly. And so they do play over into that lane. They have a Jeff. And so we're not going to get to test out the tech, I guess. It's unfortunate. We can potentially land a massive Doc Ock, right? They have 4 cards. We could potentially pull all of them in, and then we can move the Doc Ock over if we need to. I like this. I like this quite a bit. The only downside is that we don't have very many of our low cost cards. So our Mojo, Polaris, Titania, we don't have those in hand. So we would have to rely on maybe drawing Titania on this next turn would be the best thing we could hope for. And so we pull their Ghost Spider, okay, which pulls their Jeff out of the Pet Mansion lane. It comes into a Shang-Chi, which is unfortunate. I feel like Doc Ock always has to pull Shang-Chi if he is available. And so, wait, what? Okay, so we're running, it looks like very similar lists, I guess. They pull our Ghost Spider, but we don't have any room. We do cap out their Pet Mansion location. We take out their Doc Ock as well. What a wild turn. They can't move anything here. They can move Jeff, but can they beat 10 power? Can they beat 11 power here? They only have the one card. I'm going to go ahead and play for the right lane and hope that they didn't get something massive. What a wild game. All right, and we do force the retreat from the odd double Doc Ock. We don't get to use our Ghost Spider. We will. We are going to keep digging, and we will get to utilize it. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Xylink, and the first location is the Bifrost, which is pretty cool for cards like Debris, cards like Green Goblin, because we can more easily navigate them, where we clog at least one location, we can pull in and clog the rest with Doc Ock, and we get quite a bit of benefit from that. And so I'm going to go ahead and play our Mojo into the unknown alongside our Nebula, and then we'll go from there. We have Debris, we have Titania, we don't have Ghost Spider. She has not been wanting to show up in our decks, unfortunately. Ooh, we have to make sure we win this location. Oof. That is a big. Okay. I will throw absolutely everything into the location if I have to. We're gonna go ahead and do Debris and send cards over into left and mid. Haven't played anything for the first 3 turns. If they somehow come out and beat us in Hala, I'm gonna be so upset. Okay, let's. After this turn, this is gonna get clogged anyways. I'm gonna do these two, and then we'll kind of figure it out from there. We do have Ghost Spider. We can maneuver Titania as like a big brain play. I think it's gonna be kind of hard to do that and guarantee where it goes, but it is a possibility. We can then move it and have it bounce over in that same lane, which I think is kind of cool, kind of sneaky. Oh. Rude. How very rude. They skip the first 3 turns and then they beat us and beat 99% of our cards. Just so unfortunate. We have to play into the Avengers compound. I guess we're going to do a Doc Ock. Maybe we do a Ghost Spider into Hala next turn to pull the Doc Ock over, depending on what we pull into this lane. If it's something that is beatable by some lower power cards, like the Titania, like maybe a Polaris, and we could do Ghost Spider to pull him out and kind of give that surprise factor, that surprise burst. So they do a magic, they extend the game. Interesting. So this is the She-Not deck. Ooh, there is a likelihood that we pull into their Infinite here, which is scary. We can also clear up a space here to play. No, we pull into Thing. It's not terrible, but it's not great either. This is a 9 power play. I think we leave this one as is. And then what we're going to do is we're going to experiment. We're going to see if this tech would work. This is something I've been kind of curious about, and I haven't got to do it yet, is do the Green Goblin in a different lane, and then Ghost Spider should pull the Green Goblin over if it has that capacity. And so I want to check to see if that is how it works. They do use Moon Girl, so they double down on whatever they have in hand. But does it do it? Does he yank it? It does. That is like one of the main reasons she's in this deck. Same thing with doing like the Doc Ock into a different lane. Similar to how you could previously set up like an Iron Fist into Doc Ock. You can now do Doc Ock into Ghost Spider and clear up some hassle for yourself. So we're gonna go ahead and do Shang-Chi in the She-Hulk lane, and I think that gives us the win that we need. Unless they have a way to buff this lane, which maybe they do, but I am going to go ahead and stick it out. That kind of clears up the risk. That kind of clears up the risk that comes alongside the Green Goblin, in that not knowing if it can cap out a location or not. You can now do it into a safe lane. You can now do it into a safe lane and then yank it over with your Ghost Spider. And so we are able to hold down the 2-cube win with the unique Ghost Spider tech. And that's why we wanted her in the deck. And so we will go ahead and take the 2 cubes. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Killer Monkey. And the first location is Nova Roma. We start with Ghost Spider. Finally, I think it's been a handful of games. We're almost infinite already. Grinding all the way from 97, not even 70, just solid 97. So it looks like we are finally running into the first person running a movement style deck. And so we're going to be able to hopefully hurt them a little bit. They do get the turn 2 Human Torch movement, which is going to be so big. If that becomes incredibly common, I think we start seeing a lot more Killmongers as a result as well. So like something like Silver Surfer, I think will be very, 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 very common. If that is a tech that we see a lot of. And so right now the raft is close to being full. They can cap it out all the way. Do they though? Probably. Because of that, I think we're just going to do something like Green Goblin in a different lane. We're going to try and send them as much just junk that they don't want as possible, so that maybe we can outpower them somewhere else. So they do get Beast, which they bounce their Ghost Spider back in. Oh no, this is going to be a big Human Torch. They also get the free resource from the raft. Luckily, we have our Shang-Chi here as one of our best friends. Now, this is a really cool tech that I really, really enjoy, is the Titania into Polaris. Polaris is going to pull the Beast and send Titania over to their side, capping this lane out, and then we just have to focus from there. They could have a cloak potentially, but I think this is much more of a like small guys bounce style deck, so I don't know how much movement potential or capabilities it actually has in it. And so I think we're okay here. I don't think they're going to have a cloak or a Heimdall. They might have a Doctor Strange, but right now that's going to pull the Vulture. So I think we're okay in this lane. Now it just comes down to winning one additional location. So we have our Shang-Chi. We could always do something like Ghost Spider plus Shang-Chi next turn. And I think that's what we're going to lean in on. Their Human Torch is only 4 because they didn't choose to double it again. They did the Vulture play. So let's see what they're going to play here, and we'll go from there. So the Miles Morales and then the Sentinel. Do they have us? I don't know. If they play here next turn, we do have a card. We have the Mojo that's going to get the bonus from it. Don't have initiative, so, I mean, not a terrible shot, I guess. It's a shot. It's an opportunity. And it comes down to a read. If they have a way to move some cards, we might get swindled here. If they don't play anything here and choose not to enable the Mojo, then actually no, we would win this lane because Nebula will scale. And so they have to at least play in the raft, enable the Mojo. I think we have them, but I also don't know what they're running in the deck. And that is one of the best things I like about a new start to a season, is that we just don't know what's coming down. And so they do pull our card of the raft location with an arrow. Oh no. The arrow tech was good. We had that seems like an expensive piece, but it paid off for him there. It's one of those tech cards that I don't think is going to be useful all that often, but in this particular game, it did them wonders. It won them the game. And so we will take our 4 cube loss. We'll take the licks where we can. We were almost infinite too. You bounced us down to 98. We will jump back in. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Wang 67th. The first location is the miniaturized lab, so we get a lot of value in our Nebula. And from there we can, okay, yeah, that's the smart play. Not knowing what the opponent's running, seeing a turn 1 snap, it's smart to retreat. It's hard to do that. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. I'm going to go ahead and do the Green Goblin into Superflow. This became a lot. All right, next up we have Northarian. The first location is Washington, D.C. So we could go ahead and, I mean, we have our Green Goblin. Debris gets a little bit of value here. We can clog them up. let our Nebula scale, and then we only have to worry about focusing on one other location. And so that's what we're going to intend to do. We don't have our debris yet, of course, but doing something like Polaris, our Green Goblin, we can start clogging them up. Jeff is one of those nuances and nuisances that used to not be an issue. But now you can't guarantee that you're locking down a location because Jeff can move. And it's so common to see Jeff just in place. And so they play an armor into the Nebula lane, interestingly enough. So I don't know what they're planning on running here, but we will gladly try to see. I'm going to go ahead and do Hood and Debris into this right lane. It's not great for us, but I think it's all right. We will get this lane close to capped out. I doubt they move their Jeff until the last turn or close to the last turn. So we'll get this one close to capped out. It'll be close to capped out on ours as well. I think that's a risk we're willing to take. So they play a Cerebro. Wow. So no, what? Oh, that came from the camp. Okay. I was like, no way you play Cerebro 3 with a Sunspot. Just be wild. They can eventually move their Jeff out, which is gonna be big for them because then they can fight more for Washington, D.C. Unless, of course, we completely cap them out somehow. I doubt it. With the cards that we're seeing, I highly doubt it. Being turn 5, I think we're a little bit more ambitious. We do something like a lot of rocks. That is a lot of rocks, my friend. I don't know that that's great either, though. No, I'm going to keep the Titania. I'm going to do this. We'll keep the Titania, and then we'll see. Okay, Spider-Man is not great. Into that Sunspot lane. I mean, they're gonna. Oh, okay. They're gonna have to move. They're gonna have to move their Jeff there. They're gonna have to play a resource there. Something to take that one away. The last card we played was Demon, so maybe we do like a sneaky Demon pool. I don't know that that's enough. I don't know that it's enough. But I do want to try it. Or no, never mind. That would make our Demon not pull. Just kidding. We're gonna do this. We could lose. We could very likely lose this one. We'll see. We'll see how it works out. They move their Jeff over into Camp Lehi. I assume that they let some energy soak. And so let's see. The Titanium comes down. The Doctor Doom comes down. It's not enough. They do win mid, but we win left by more, right? It was very close. My math is very slow right now. It's very late. This was 9. This was 12. We do get the differential. Wow. Had they played their Doctor Doom here, it would have put 7 power here because of the Doom bot. They still would have lost by 1, but it would have been much, much closer in that scenario. The Ghost Spider allows us to maneuver our Demon in a way that kind of took them by surprise, I'm assuming. And so we will take the 2 cubes. We're going to go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Mega Mat, and the first location is Sakaar, so we have a potential possibility pull into Doc Ock on turn 1 and cap out their left lane. Instead, we pull into our Shang-Chi, and that is useless for us. Now, they are running a movement deck, so maybe we can draw some of our Clog components. That would be ideal. Who knows if it happens. The Superflow does come down, so we will be able to get Doc Ock a turn early. If we get something like Green Goblin, we can stop their extra bonus while keeping ours. But I don't know. I think we're safe to play into the left lane with Polaris. I didn't want to accidentally pull like a Human Torch or something that's going to continue to buff it up. So I did want to play it into the Iron Fist lane just in case. If they played something, I'm sure they would play it here and then move it over into this lane. So we have 5 energy this turn. Wow. Yes, let's go ahead and play our Doc Ock. It's super strange. But we're gonna pull all of the cards out of their hand and see what happens. Now, this card is going to move into the Superflow, so it's kind of interesting that they played it. We'll see. Oh, okay, so the Heimdall comes down. It does clog their Superflow location. Not that they have additional resources to, like, utilize, but but it's out there. It's out and about. And so let's see. How do we navigate from here? We can move some cards into mid if we want to. I doubt that they do now, but they don't have anything that's going to get buffed. So what if we did like this, and then we do something silly like this? If they move their multiple man, they're kind of bold. Wow, they're brave. Okay. So that's really clogging their board. If we get a debris, we just shut them down entirely. And that's one of the biggest flaws or downside to movement, and especially movement that's going to try to like do a lot of small things, is, and there's the debris, is that it can be shut down relatively easily. So let's go ahead and do the mojo before the debris rock clogs this location so that we can make sure that we win it. Even if they do play something over there, the mojo will trigger. Ooh, but that comes down to if we get a good resource on the last turn, playing it here. Do we want to do that? Or do we just assume that they're not going to play anything into Tinker's Workshop this turn? We can maintain our 4-point lead, and then we have the surprise factor of the mojo next turn. That's what we're going to stick to. Okay, so they don't... Oh, okay. They play a wave. They play the Widow's Bite into mid. We clog up their right lane, so we have the win there. All that they can do is play one card here. Is it enough? I don't know. It really depends on what they top decked, because our Doc Ock did drain them of their big resources. And so now, is it going to be bigger than... I guess bigger than 3? Has to be bigger than 3, right? I guess we'll lock it in. We're going to lose the 1 cube. So it is 3. We're going to result in an exact tie, but we lose... Wait, no. Wait, no. I forgot Mojo has a base power, and it's not just the 6 that we're getting from the ongoing. And so we are able to swing that one back in our favor. It did have to be 5 or more for them to find a way to win. I thought I had counted us out of that one. All right. Next up, we have fellow content creator D Money. The first location is the collapsed mine. I'm going to go ahead and skip to make sure that no kind of shenanigans end up happening and we get stuck with those rocks, like a Scarlet Witch, an armor, or anything silly like that. We do get cloning vats. We can play a couple of our cards multiple times. I don't know that we will end up doing that, but I do like putting it out there as a potential possibility. We have our Ghost Spider, so we can maneuver our cards out of the cloning vats if we want to. We could play a mojo, move it out, play another mojo and cloning vats, and just kind of continue to duplicate it that way, but I don't know that we want to. They do duplicate a Jeff, which is a clog deck's worst nightmare. Space Throne is kind of interesting, though. Because they'll be able to play multiple Jeffs into that location, up to 4, which is kind of unique. So they can play them here and then eventually move them over, which I'm kind of jealous of. I'm going to go ahead and give up the Space Throne location just because Jeff that early is so impactful. And I want to keep playing this one. I think they probably win this one. They have a pretty big advantage, especially with the Jeff. The Hulkbuster on the Jeff means that they have a duplicating 7 power resource that they can now utilize, which is so incredibly scary. I think they do... I don't know. I think he plays at least one more card in the cloning vats, but I'm going to go ahead and try to clog it up. I'm going to go ahead and try and do a double drop. If they don't play for cloning vats, we will send 2 cards there, and then they can eventually send the Titania back by moving their Jeff out. But we will at least get a green goblin there, unless they cap it out entirely, in which case we will tuck tail and run. One of those things. And D-Money is a good player. He's very knowledgeable, he's very heads up. So he might. Seeing the debris play alongside the mojo does give telltale signs of a junk or debris style deck. And so he plays a base Jeff into the Space Throne. He continues to copy his other Jeff, unfortunately for us. And so we do send the green goblin there, but he can move his Jeffs, his Jeffies. He can move the Jeffies out. He'll be like the Jeffersons moving on up. We can send the green goblin. We can do a Viper to send over the rock. It's still very, very tough to navigate this game. And so, I don't know. because he can continue to clear up the cloning vats location by sending up to those 4 Jeffs here, because nothing is going to stop Jeff from moving into the Space Throne, not even the Space Throne. And so I've never seen more than 1 Jeff in a Space Throne alongside another card. It'll be interesting to see multiple get moved over there. It's just such a nice set of locations for him. And since we don't have any way to change them, it becomes kind of difficult. Now, the good thing is we are clogging up their board substantially. And so if they play over into the Collapse Mine this turn, if they move a Jeff over there, that is going to be all that they can do. And so then it just comes down to moving Jeff into the Space Throne, and then that being that. They do play 1 card into the Collapse Mine. What do they play over there? They play a Vulture. And so we're going to send them a Green Goblin. We're going to send them the Rock. And this last turn, I don't know how to navigate this. This is so incredibly difficult. That's something like this? I don't know. We're going to do this. I think it loses as long as they don't... I don't know. We might have a shot here. Oddly enough, we might have a shot. Even though the Space Throne is lost, we were able to clog up the other locations enough that a movement deck was just very unimpactful. So let's see if we can make this happen. Do get the retreat. We get the retreat against the Jeff cloning vat monstrosity. That was a 2-cost 7-power resource that could just keep being played over and over again. Fortunately for us, our clog was a little bit more heavy-handed than what they could handle, and so we are able to hold down the 2 cubes, and that is where I'm going to go ahead and end the video. Ghost Spider in this one is definitely a very tech-heavy card. It is not something that is going to have value every single game, but there are certain games where it is absolutely going to give you that win condition that you wouldn't have otherwise. And I know I don't think this is the best shell for it. I think it is a decent shell for it, and I wanted to try something outside of the common movement deck that I think is going to be plaguing the ladder later today. And so we're going to go ahead and end the video here. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what decks you're running for day 1. Are you testing out Ghost Spider in different shells? I'm almost infinite. I almost started an infinite, so I'm almost there. And then I can just free experiment for the rest of the season. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to give it a like and a comment down below. And as always, this has been TLSG. Later, guys.